Welcome to Best Ball Whenever. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I am here with Billy Gableman, aka StatATL, in the Underdog streets. He is StatATL. Um, Sorry, I had to close I do this all the time. I leave my YouTube open and then I'm doing the intro and then I hear myself suddenly and it always throws me off. Billy is a fellow best ball enthusiast, or at least a fellow playoff weekly winners enthusiast. We will talk about how we started talking about playoff weekly winners. I want to do a little bit of an intro of Billy. I'll show you where you can find him. This is Billy's profile here on 1 week season. Billy has a math degree, as you see here, a background as a financial analyst. He does numbers driven approach within, I don't know, I actually don't know what an OWS mindset means exactly. Maybe we can talk about that. But over $100,000 in lifetime profit in DFS, very successful, low stakes DFS player who only plays NFL and PGA. And Billy and I got to talking a little bit about playoff weekly winners is where we really started talking. Sorry for the no flannel, Steven. You're correct. It's a little bit too hot. I just decided to go with the V-neck. Good morning, JMC and Vaporware. Good to see you as well. But Billy, I wanted to give you a brief introduction, and now I just want to ask, how are you doing tonight? And also, what are you drinking? I guess I meant to say in the intro, meant to point out that Billy is an avid bourbon drinker. His Instagram page, if you go check it out on the OWS website, his Instagram page is all about bourbon. You can also find Billy on Twitter at W Gableman. That's at WGABELMAN. Did I say that right? W Gableman.
Neil, you nailed it.
Nailed it. You can find Billy on Twitter. Go check him out. What up, Joe? Billy, how are you doing tonight? And as I said, you are an avid bourbon drinker. Like myself, it is my drink of choice, bourbon on the rocks. I am drinking some basic bitch Maker's Mark. What are you drinking tonight?
I've just got my daily drinker. It's E.H. Taylor single barrel. So bourbon, I drink it neat.
Oh, you drink it neat. Oh, you're a fancy guy.
I drink it neat. I'm getting married in a couple of weeks, so there's a lot of stress. We gotta be just drinking it.
Billy was also telling me that he is currently at his future in-laws house. So he said he's getting married in a couple of weeks. He is at his future in-laws house, so not at his usual setup right now. I cannot drink bourbon neat. I shouldn't say I can't drink it. I don't enjoy it neat. It's like taking a shot to me if I drink it neat. Somehow just putting it on the rocks, just making it cold makes all the difference in the world for me. So I'm drinking it on the rocks, like the picture that we have there.
So Neil, there's no right or wrong way, buddy. If that's how you enjoy it, it's meant to be enjoyed. For me, I hate when and I'm a pretty avid bourbon drinker and collector, but it drives me nuts when you see people who have fancy bottles and they've had them for 20 years and they're unopened, and it's just like, if you're not going to drink it, why do you have it? Like,
I'm on the same page.
It doesn't make any sense. So drink it however you enjoy it, as long as you're drinking it, buddy.
I went to a tasting room or some big fancy place when my wife's sister lived in South Carolina. We went to some big fancy place, and I felt like they were judging me for getting some ice on the side, because we're doing a tasting. I was like, well, I'm not going to enjoy these, like tasting these without the ice. So I got the ice on the side, and it seemed like they had never been asked that before. It was like, like they didn't know why I would want ice with my bourbon. So I don't know. Maybe not everybody feels that way, but yes, I agree with you. Drink it however you want. Put it in an old fashioned if you want to. However you're going to enjoy it. But we're not here to talk about bourbon. We can keep talking about it throughout the night if we feel like it. But here to talk about some best ball, and we will start with talking some playoff weekly winners. Vaporware says he's enjoying a Breckenridge bourbon on the rocks. I don't know either of the bourbons that you guys have talked. Are you familiar with Breckenridge?
Familiar, yes. Not a personal favorite, but that's another great thing about bourbon. It's, whatever hits your palate,
Exactly right. 100%.
For those of you who know, I know we don't want to talk too much about bourbon, but for those of you who want to get into bourbon or whiskey, my suggestion to you is get a couple of friends together and do a blind whiskey tasting. So just have all your buddies, bring a bottle, or two people split one and bring, and just see what you like when you get rid of the labels. You'll be surprised on, you'll taste a $100 bottle and you don't know it's a $100 bottle, and you'll taste a $25 bottle and you may just like the $25 bottle. So
My impression has always been like the more you pay for it, generally the more alcoholic it is, like the higher the proof typically. Is there any correlation there? Am I completely wrong about that correlation that the more you pay is just more alcohol in general?
There is a minor correlation. Let's say it's similar to like kicker and defense, or defense and punt returner. Like, hey, I'm going to play a wide receiver that also happens to.
Sure, sure. Like a
Yeah.
Richie
So
James.
there is
Yeah.
correlation, but it's small.
Okay. All right.
There's plenty of $30 bottles that are 125, 130 proof that'll just like really knock you on your butt.
Okay.
But you don't have to pay a ton for them.
Joe says he's drinking. I don't know what OF 1920 is. Do you know what that means?
Say it again.
Joe Lacate says he's drinking OF 1920.
Yeah, Old Forester.
Old
It's a
Forester. Okay.
solid pour in my opinion.
And Steven, you should draft with us tonight. Tonight is the night to draft with us because we are drinking and drafting. We'll probably end up with Mac Jones. What up, Freshka? Yes, we are going to do some drafting. We are, however, going to start by taking a look at some of our best ball teams. JMC says, not a bourbon drinker, but next time I get one, I'm going to ask them for the Devin Hester. That's okay. I get it. I get it now. I get where that's coming
from. The returner.
Yeah. All right. So let's start by taking a look at our teams. And so Billy and I started talking when I think I might have done the only content about playoff weekly winners out there. I don't think I saw anybody else do any content on playoff weekly winners. And I posted a video which basically just said, yeah, you should draft for the Super Bowl. If that doesn't go perfectly, then maybe switch and take some players for the conference championship, but basically talking about that strategy. And after I posted that, you reached out and sent me one of your teams where you had done exactly that. You had drafted for a 49ers Ravens Super Bowl. Looked like a really strong team, the type of team that I was drafting. And you were encouraging me to remove my video, to remove it from the internet, to not give anybody advice, because you saw it the exact same way for me. And so we're going to start here just talking about playoff weekly winners, because this is what went well for both of us. We both drafted for the Super Bowl. And you ended up taking third, essentially second, because there was two teams tied for first, but you ended up getting next up in the playoff weekly winners 2 contest. You had Mahomes, McCaffrey. You didn't get Pacheco. It might have been a little bit tougher to do the draft with Pacheco by the time it got here, but you ended up getting Juwan Jennings, who absolutely crushed, and Travis Kelce, and I guess Rashee Rice also. Yeah, so you had Mahomes, McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, Kelce, and Rashee Rice were your scoring players here. Let's talk a little bit about this strategy. So when you first started drafting playoff weekly winners, and I don't know, did you do any drafts in the original contest, the playoff weekly winners, like 1, I guess?
I didn't do any in the original contest. Like, I was focused on, the original contest for just regular playoff best ball. So, the mitten, so funny enough, I'm going to give myself a shout out here. I actually won the original mitten.
Oh, no way. How much is that for?
It was a 4-way chop. So it was 13-5.
Not bad. How many years ago was that?
That was this year.
Oh, this was
gotcha.
Okay.
Sunday. Nice. Which is why I didn't even notice that like this team ended up coming in third in weekly winners, because I was actually out in Scottsdale with a bunch of the Degenerate 75 and Ship It crew. I don't know if I know those are competitive sites to both of our other ventures. Or
I don't currently really have any competitive sites because I don't work for anybody. so yes, talk about whatever sites you want to talk about. Yeah, I've interviewed the Degenerate 75. I just back when I was doing the High Stakes podcast, he was a guest on that podcast at one point. I met Tambo. He was here in Minnesota this summer, so I know Tambo a little bit. So yeah, I'm very familiar with those sites. So you were out. Sorry, where did you say you were?
We were out in Scottsdale for the waste management. Just kind of did a meetup there, and then we 20 of us or so between the 2 sites got together for a Super Bowl watch party. And we're just kind of sweating this, Juwan Jennings got off to such a great start, and I had him in and on that other team as well. So I'm cheering for that. I had a couple of difference makers. Like so the roster that I think you came in first in your weekly winners, I had that exact build in for the season long and ended up scoring like 91.3 or something like that, or something in that range, 91.2. I had like 2 other players that no one else that was in first place with me in the tie had. So like if McKinnon would have gotten a touchdown and outscored Pacheco, I would have solo shipped that.
Yeah.
Um,
That is the tough thing with these is not knowing exactly what you want until you see what everybody else has. Like, so as I think I said this on Twitter, I actually lost money in the fourth quarter, even though I won the contest. It was due. I think it was I shipped a 5-way tie instead of a 2-way tie when
yeah,
Pacheco passed MVS as a scorer. And of course,
yeah,
none of us in the winning lineups had Mecole Hardman, which is the kind of funny thing. Like after Mecole Hardman's touchdown, I was like, yeah, that's going to cost me thousands of dollars. Like I'm clearly not going to win first because now he had at that point 3 catches for 57 yards and a
and a
touchdown. Like
touchdown.
he's way outscored MVS at that point. So I was for sure, I thought he was going to pass us, but very few people had Mecole Hardman, it turns out.
Um, in the mitten contest, I don't know that anyone out of the 370 people that made the finals had Mecole Hardman.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't
Probably
know
not.
that going into it. Like I was in the same boat as you. I thought that this was going to cost me first, and I certainly don't want to knock Underdog or bash them at all. But they're not the speediest with their updates. Certainly
Sure.
not on Best Ball. So I'm sitting there like refreshing. When is this going to hit? And
Yeah.
after about 20 or 30 minutes, and it didn't change. I just assumed it was the final. So.
Yeah, I had the same issue where I was at a Super Bowl party, had to drive home, and when I left, I was like, well, by the time I get home, like this will go away. Like I'm clearly not going to actually win this contest. I got home and I had dropped $800. I had dropped, I don't know what happened exactly, but I dropped from 4,000 to 3,300 before I left, and then it dropped to 2,500 by the time I got home. But I was sure, I was like, well, this can't be right. Like clearly somebody is going to be in first ahead of us. And it turned out just not that many people had Mecole Hardman in that contest. So we kind of lucked out in that sense in these contests to do as well as we did. In the contest that you're in, the teams that outscored you here, this is my exact team. I guess we don't have to look. I was planning on looking at my team as well. We don't really need to do that because they had the exact same scores. I guess they're different in the other spots. So they had the same scoring players, the ones who actually won. I did have all San Francisco and Kansas City. My entire team were built for the San Francisco Kansas City Super Bowl. But one thing that I wanted to ask you about. So I think that this did make the most sense for us. Like I did several drafts before I decided on the strategy of only drafting for Super Bowl teams, like just drafting 2 teams, one AFC, one NFC, and just having a ton of different combos for the Super Bowl in these contests. Did you do that almost immediately? I mean, so you have 2 Miami players in this one, so you had a secondary out, which I don't know if that was part of your plan or
It was
something that you
not.
pivoted to. Okay.
It was not. So I didn't do that many drafts. I think I did 19 or 20 total of the weekly winners. And almost all of them I started with the intention of going Baltimore, San Francisco. Just because it was so hard to get. And so even people who were drafting these suboptimally, in my opinion, they were still picking one-offs of Baltimore and San Francisco. Like it was really hard to kind of get enough of the key players.
Yep.
So I started most of my drafts that way. And if it didn't work out that way, I just had to pivot.
Yeah.
And so I actually think that the Devon Achane pick on this, either that or Waddle, I literally got timed out and it auto picked that player.
Oh,
and
no.
then as it was coming later, it must have been Achane. And then like 4 or 5 rounds later, I had gotten, enough of the San Francisco key pieces with Christian McCaffrey, and I think my roster has Kittle on it as well. And I had taken like Jennings already, and it was just like, all right, I've got San Francisco, and I've got a couple Kansas City guys between Mahomes and Kelsey and Racey Rice. So it's just like, I guess I could take MVS or Justin Watson, or maybe this team I try to grab another Dolphin, and maybe that helps. Although they were playing Kansas City in the first round, It was just more flustered at that point of
Yeah.
like I auto picked one of these two guys, so maybe it makes sense to take another one because I think Jalen Waddle, he was hurt at the time, so he like fell to like the 9th round, and I was just like I might as well take Jalen Waddle before I take Tony or
Or
Ronnie
Miko
Bell or
or Miko
some
Hardman.
real unlikely player to actually
Yeah.
help you, or Mikael Hardman. That would have
Yeah.
been a better play.
Yeah. No, but I totally I did the same thing. Like I did every piece of content that I did was on like you should just take from two teams, build for the Super Bowl. But I did first of all, I did several drafts before I started doing that strategy. I like immediately and actually before we get into this anymore, we're not going to do talk too long about playoff weekly winners because I don't think that many people care. But as long as we are talking about, I feel like I should explain for anybody who doesn't understand weekly winners. It is so Underdog had this contest, playoff weekly winners. What we're looking at right now is a little bit different from, actually very different in some ways from playoff best ball. The idea is you draft your team, and it is a new contest every week. So like the first round of the playoffs, the wild card weekend, your team is competing against every other team in the contest that week, and then it resets. And for each week, this is the prize structure. So each week, the top team wins $5,000, second place $3,000, third place $2,000, and so on. So it's the same prize structure each week of the playoffs. And it's wild card weekend, divisional round, conference championship, and then Super Bowl. It's the exact same playoff structure. So you can kind of choose what you want to do. Do you want to build for just the conference championship round? Don't take anybody from Baltimore or San Francisco. Do you want to build for the divisional round, the conference championship, where you would just be taking from 4 different teams, or do you want to build for the Super Bowl, where you're just drafting from 2 different teams? I think most people in the contest, as far as I could tell, didn't really kind of have any strategy. Like a lot of people were just taking the best players at random, didn't seem to be focusing on any specific week. And I pretty quickly, my very first draft, I drafted for the second round on. I was like, I'm just gonna not, I'm gonna draft for the later round. So I'm not taking anybody who I think is gonna lose in the first round. Of course, I made what I think was a mistake in that. So my very first draft, the only time I was able to draft, and you couldn't do this at all in weekly winners too, but in the first one, I got McCaffrey and Lamar Jackson. I was like, yeah, I'm going to take the guys from the bye weeks. But at that point, I had not yet decided to draft for just the Super Bowl. So I drafted 6 players. It would have been a 6-player Super Bowl, would have been a strong team if it was San Francisco, Baltimore, but I didn't go all in on just those 2 teams the way I actually think that I should have, even though they didn't end up being the Super Bowl team. But later on, I was drafting, as I said in the content I put, I think that the sharpest way, and you and I talked about this. So you, as I said, you DM me, you told me remove your video. You're giving away too much edge here, which I think is true. I think this is the rare contest where it was like, yeah, it was like there was just so much edge in this contest if you were drafting with a strategy. And I think the optimal strategy, and I know you had the same thought, is just draft for the Super Bowl, because then you're drafting. If those teams make the Super Bowl, you're going to have a huge advantage on the 10,000 of the 11,000 teams that can't even field the full roster, whatever the number would be. But then you're also with those 2 teams, if they just make the conference championship, like you still are going to have a live roster in the conference championship.
Agreed.
Probably not that live in the divisional round, maybe somewhat live in it's tough to have just 5 players from 2 teams in the divisional round, but like arguably live. So that is the approach that I took. It's the approach that you took, was drafting for these specific teams. Would you agree with me that it was not ideal for our strategy? And I know you said that you drafted mostly for Baltimore, San Francisco Super Bowl, which, we were just looking at the odds of like who is most likely to make the Super Bowl. I was doing the same thing. Like by far, the combo that I did the most was Baltimore, San Francisco. But in some ways, I feel like it was harder for us to win with that strategy once it goes to the Super Bowl, because all of the good players from San Francisco, of course, Juwan Jennings ended up being the guy you needed, but all of the guys that you thought you needed from San Francisco were gone in the first 2 rounds. So you actually couldn't build for like the nuts in each draft. Like you had to do several drafts to get a lot of different iterations, but you couldn't just build the nuts.
So you are 100% correct there, but just because you couldn't build the nuts also means that everyone else can't build the nuts. So you're really just trying to be a little bit different, but also you did, I don't know how many weekly winner drafts did you do?
I did 62.
Okay. So between the 2 of us, we were about 80 drafts. Did you see people building San Francisco, Baltimore, like outside of the draft, outside of me, I didn't see anyone in my drafts trying to do that. So had that been the Super Bowl, like even just having 5 or 6 players, like legit players, not,
Yeah.
the third string running back on either, like, you know what I mean? Like legit players that could score points. 5 or 6 of them, you are likely competing with just 1% of the rosters in the contest.
100%. And that is why I was drafting the same thing. Sacrilegious is in the chat, says he had so many Baltimore, San Francisco Sklansky's. First of all, Sacrilegious, good to see you here. I would love to have you on the channel sometime. Sac, do you know that we're talking about weekly winners and not best ball? Because I was actually looking for Sacrilegious when I was trying to look through what other people were doing in on Spike Week. You can kind of, they had a setup where you could look at other teams. I was looking for Sacrilegious on there because I wanted to see how he approached this, to see if he had the same thoughts as us of just building for the Super Bowl. So I want to make sure that we're talking about the same, because I did not see you there, but I also did not really. Oh yeah, he didn't do any weekly winners. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I feel like I looked and didn't see you. Yeah. The edge was much, in my opinion, much bigger in weekly winners than in regular playoff best ball, just because of the reasons that we are talking about. Just that it was not, people just weren't drafting for the Super Bowl, and people, I don't think we're really drafting with much strategy at all. I go back and forth on what I actually wanted to happen, and of course, it worked out pretty well. Like I ended up splitting first place, winning $2,500. I think the nuts for me would have been if it had been Baltimore, Detroit in the Super Bowl, just because again nobody was doing it, and I more or less was able to draft the nuts for Baltimore, Detroit. You could take Lamar first round, Amon St. Brown first round, Lamar second round, Zay Flowers third round. I think then Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta. I think that I was basically able to get everybody you would want from those two teams except for David Montgomery. Like there was a little bit of a cluster there where you couldn't get quite everybody, but it was like I have like basically all of the good combos covered there. Whereas for any San Francisco Super Bowl, like within one lineup, you couldn't cover all of the good lineup, all the good combos. Like it was just because they were all going in the first 2 rounds. So it was a little bit I don't know. It felt suboptimal to me going in that it was the combo of the Chiefs Niners, even though I drafted like 7 of that combo. So like I had several, but also for me, I didn't get the 101 very often. I only got it 7. So I did 62 total playoff weekly winners drafts. I only got the 101 7 times of those 62. And you clearly needed Christian McCaffrey in the night. So I was doing a lot of Baltimore, San Francisco, Kansas City, but I was playing it for what if McCaffrey gets hurt and drafting Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, the backup running backs, and just hoping like if they can get there without McCaffrey, I'm going to be in a really good spot. Did you do any of that?
A little. So just speaking, just because you had Sack made a comment, I really loved his content. And then, I just love that for just the playoff best ball in general. Like I've written a strategy article on it, but honestly, I felt like his content was sharper than what I put out. I want to give another shout out to someone I doubt is even watching the stream, but plays a ton of Underdog, just best ball. He's in all the streets. I don't even know his first name, but he goes by Crutches.
Okay.
I had probably had 51 off conversations with him. Super sharp dude. But yeah, I mean, when it became the Kansas City, San Francisco Super Bowl, like to me, like, and this is from someone who won a contest with that. Like, I hated that was the run out because basically anyone who drafted 101 took CMC 101. And then when it came back to you, basically I don't want to call them donkeys because I was a donkey. I had to do it a couple times. You took 2 Chiefs. Like that was what fell to you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people, so even people who didn't really understand the contest were still drafting it. I think a lot of people were just drafting it like it was best ball. Like I think basically a lot of people didn't understand. So they understood the concept of, okay, you need to have 5 active players for the Super Bowl. So they were building, so there were actually a lot of combos. I was actually surprised the number of teams that I drafted, all Chiefs, Niners, that didn't cash in the Super Bowl. Like I had teams that were like deep. I mean, and you can see why. It was like Debo, Kittle, Purdy, and then Pacheco. I don't just like a couple random Chiefs. Those teams didn't even get there because you really needed it to be
You
the
needed the
strongest
101.
players.
You needed CMC.
Yeah, you needed CMC on those teams. So yeah, it was. I agree with you. It felt like it was a poor outcome for drafting for the Super Bowl because there were more of those combos. Then again, like the Baltimore Detroit, I don't think there were that many people building for that specific combo.
It was a poor run out for people who were conscientiously drafting for the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just because so many people who didn't actually know what they were doing ended up with a similar type of combo, just kind of on accident.
Yeah. First of all, I want to agree with your statement about sacrilegious content. He did. I don't think that I consumed all of it. I didn't do a lot of reading about playoff best ball, but I did watch some streams. I loved the stream that Sacrilegious did with Will Patterson from SaberSim and Pat Carrain on Legendary Upside. I thought it was just like, get this trio together. Yeah, I'm in for that content. And I watched some other content that Sac did with Danny Dimes and Pat Carrain. A lot of sharp content that those guys did for Legendary Upside. And then Jewish McCaffrey says, Kyle, I believe he's referring to Crutches here. Kyle just sent him your link. Gonna see if he'll hop in the chat. I assume you're talking about Crutches there, who, as far as I know, doesn't do content. I could be wrong with that. Maybe I'm not aware.
He doesn't. He's I believe he's a subscriber on 1 Week Season, and just hit him up in the Discord.
Okay. Yeah, I know the name.
He's active in our Discord, and it was I mean, he's a super sharp dude.
Yeah. I've heard somebody else mentioned him within the past month, so I know the name, and I've noticed him like in YouTube chats and stuff, and I've drafted against him. Of course, I know the name, but I don't know him personally. I don't know if he's like on social media. I don't know if he does content, but like I'm aware of him. I see him on YouTube chat and stuff.
I just learned his first name was Kyle. So
yeah, apparently it's Kyle. All right. So we've probably talked enough about playoff weekly winners. I'm trying to think if we have any other any other angles to talk about. First of all, I mean,
first, congratulations to you. I haven't said that to you yet.
Oh,
congrats on the victory for you as well.
Yeah. Here's a question that I wanted to talk about a little bit. So I feel like there's a tipping point where if enough people start drafting for the Super Bowl, I think it was really sharp this year because nobody was doing it. There's clearly going to be a tipping point, though, where if enough of the field starts drafting for the Super Bowl, it's not going to be that sharp anymore. Like suddenly you're going to be drafting against everybody doing the same thing with the same combos. Oh, here he is. Shout out, congrats on the shipper. So yeah, there you go. Here's Crutches in chat responding to you. Thank you for the. Maybe he was talking to you with the grats on the shipper. But yeah,
he was probably talking to both of us.
Yeah.
He's a good dude like that.
But yeah, so next year, I'm not sure that the edge is still going to be there. This year, I thought it was very clear because people weren't doing it. I think that it might shift a little bit next year if enough people are doing it. And I also kind of think if you were to do 150 of these, first of all, I don't know that it makes sense to do 150 of these playoff weekly winners drafts. But if you did, I think you might need to diversify at some point, because at that point you are $1,500 into best case scenario $5,000 in Super Bowl. Of course, as we said, you could potentially win in the conference championship, win some money, potentially win it even with just two teams. But I don't know. I feel like there's a tipping point there where if more people are doing it, and or if you're drafting too many drafts, maybe it stops making sense. What do you think?
So from a statistical point of view, I 100% agree with you. Although I don't think that we'll get to that point next
Hopefully
season.
Not.
Yeah. You're probably right with 150. Because I don't think it's a solved game in any way, shape, or form, but drafting for the Super Bowl or drafting two teams or maybe even potentially three teams that could meet in the conference championship gives you a potential to win 2 different weeks.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's really any other way to build that you are truly live to win more than 1 week. You would have to run so pure to try to do it for the first and second week where all 10 of your guys happen to advance and then you're live again. I just think it's a much more optimal strategy is to pick 2 teams that have reasonably high advance or Super Bowl, expectations. And I think that even a third team is probably not suboptimal to maybe go 4 guys 2 or 4-3-3. because by the time you get to drafting that 9th, 10th guy between the two teams, if you're just building for the Super Bowl, again, it worked out this year, but like you're picking Mecole Hardman or Kadarius Toney, like you're picking guys that have such a low probability of factoring in, that I feel like maybe you're offsetting it by taking, again, a poor example, because in hindsight, the roster of that actually ended up doing well for me in weekly winners was really probably my poorest constructed roster, because of having two Dolphins playing Kansas City the first round. Like that, they couldn't advance.
Oh, right. Which you might not have even known that at the time you drafted it. Okay.
Probably
Well,
not.
Thank you for stopping by, Crutches. Good luck with your late swap. Yeah, it's an interesting take. He says Edge will be there next year. If you're building for double 1 seed, people are reactionary and will build for what just happened at a higher than optimal rate. That's probably true. Like fewer people will do the San Francisco Baltimore thing next year. I don't know. I haven't looked at how often that actually gets there, the double 1 seed. I don't know. Like I know it worked out last year with the Chiefs and the Eagles, and that's how you and I built a lot of lineups this year. But I'm not sure how often it actually works out. So you think so I pulled up my lineup here. You think that I could have gone less hardcore on the Chiefs and the Niners here. I could have, maybe instead of drafting Kadarius Toney, Richie James, Justin Watson, and MVS, maybe go for.
I mean, those were definitely your last 4 picks.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And so to me, depending on
Jennings,
when you're drafting this, so like yours is the original weekly winners, right?
Yeah, true.
So that contest probably locked like week 16. Well, that probably filled like week 16. Like, so to me, I'd rather take a shot. Like back then, you might have even been able to get Buffalo Bills, or whoever. Maybe there you're taking. Like I'm trying to think of who was in contention week 15. Maybe you're grabbing like Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson with like your last 2 or 3 picks, because, if the Vikings made the playoffs, like those guys are not 9th and 10th round picks.
Sure.
But to me, it's worth the upside versus Kadarius Toney and Justin Watt, like guys who are just so unlike, or Richie James, that are so unlikely to actually factor in.
Like, so here's my counterpoint. I think Juwan Jennings was a last round pick, and Mecole Hardman would have been a last round pick here. So I didn't nail the final Chiefs receiver here, but I kind of feel like it was helpful. And MVS did not end up scoring. So this was in the fourth quarter. Isaiah Pacheco passed MVS, but could have had. I mean, ultimately, would have been the optimal lineup. Would have been Mahomes, McCaffrey, Juwan Jennings, Travis Kelce,
and Hardman.
And Hardman. Yeah, so it would have been
that would have been the nuts.
So it would have been 2 of those last round picks that, like, yeah, that like clearly it looks like Juwan Jennings, like I know it worked out. We both drafted Juwan Jennings, worked out great, but like he wasn't any different, I don't think, from a Justin Watson or Richie James.
So in the standard like the regular playoff best ball, Juwan Jennings was like my 4th or 5th highest owned player across hundreds of rosters. Because I was building a ton of San Francisco. I thought that San Francisco had the easiest path of anyone. And then for me, I thought Baltimore had the second easiest path. So to me, I was drafting a ton of 49er rosters with different AFC combinations. And Juwan Jennings was just a guy that, I felt like you wanted to have 2 or 3 49ers. And it was so hard to get more than 2 of the top 4 guys between, Debo, Ivok, Purdy, CMC. Yeah. Like you were at max, you were getting 2 of those guys in like 99% of drafts. Occasionally, I did see it fall where you took CMC first, and then like Purdy, Kittle would fall, and you'd grab 3 of them. But that was so rare. Okay. So to me, like I wanted to make sure that I had 3 49ers, and like the only real guys that you really wanted in the later rounds were, in my opinion, were like Juszczyk or Juwan Jennings. I took so few of Elijah Mitchell, just thinking that like if San Francisco makes the Super Bowl, and it's a somewhat competitive game, CMC is going to see 95% of the snaps. Like he's only going to come out for occasional, like he's their best player. Like the offense runs through him. So I just wasn't taking a lot of Elijah Mitchell. So I ended up with a ton of Juwan Jennings. But yeah, you're not wrong.
So what I'm hearing is the differential for you is it's not worth it to take the late round Chiefs guys because they were not as nearly as likely to make the Super Bowl as the Niners. So it was like you'll take the late round Niners guy for the odds that they are going to be in the Super Bowl and he can put up some points for you. Whereas the Chiefs, maybe at that point you want to differentiate by taking a different team and add to a potential different combos.
So Neil, that was my take on it. I also on Twitter and on Discord in like week 16, week 17 was calling the Chiefs frauds. Like I had so little Chiefs.
Sure.
So the fact that I had a weekly winners third place and a mitten winner is just kind of shows
That's
the
really
randomness
funny.
and how pure like just things have to break your way. Because I had so little Chiefs, I didn't think they could get past the second round. I thought they would lose to the Bills in the second round.
That's funny. And the other point that I was just going to make is, so I drafted a lot of Elijah Mitchell. So you just said you didn't draft Elijah Mitchell, and I agree with you that in a standard like game, you would expect like, yeah, McCaffrey was going to get all of the carries. I was taking Elijah Mitchell for the, first of all, I don't think running back is all that important. I do think CMC is an exception to the running backs don't matter thing. Like I think he's good enough that like clearly they're more likely to get there with McCaffrey than with Elijah Mitchell. But I also thought the Niners were good enough to get there if Christian McCaffrey got hurt. So it was like maybe he'll get hurt in the 2 games that they have to play before the Super Bowl. Like it's a little bit different from like DFS where it's like you're hoping for an in-game injury. It was like, well, maybe he'll get hurt at some point in those 2 games. And as I said, I never got the 101. So I'm always building like starting with Debo and Kittle or Ayuk and Kittle. And then it was like, well, what can I do with my third piece? Well, the nuts and error for me now is they get there. CMC isn't active for the game because he got hurt or something. So that was, so the reason for me for drafting Elijah Mitchell was not that I thought he would get there. I did make the mistake exactly once of drafting Elijah Mitchell on a Christian McCaffrey team. And it actually, I think, kept me from advancing on DraftKings. It was completely by accident. I drafted, but in general, I was only drafting Elijah Mitchell on non-McCaffrey teams because I figured he's only going to get there if McCaffrey is out.
I don't know that I think it's a mistake because you're 100% right. Like running back sees the most injuries of any skill position player. I just thought the cost was too high. Like Elijah Mitchell was going in like the 6th and 7th round, and outside of an injury, like he's kind of useless.
No, he was not. He was going like last round, and I don't think he was even going in every draft. Oh, I guess you only did playoff weekly winners too. So it could be that we're talking about different contexts here. I was drafting 51 of my 62 drafts. I think I drafted in the original playoff weekly winners, and all of yours were in playoff weekly winners too. So maybe it's possible that he just changed that much. But at least when I was drafting, he was like my last round pick, or maybe second to last round pick.
Yeah.
But he was
it's so crazy how the ADP shifts. You know, I know we're not really talking playoff best ball, but like the Bills and the Eagles and like the Dolphins, just the shifting of their ADP over like a 4-week stretch. Like the Bills, all their guys were shooting up, and all the Eagles and all the Dolphins were falling. It was just completely. It was just so crazy if you just look at ADP over that 3 or 4 week period.
Yeah, it was definitely changing quickly. I'm in the wrong spot here. I was going to pull off. By the way, if any of you want to get 40% off any package on Spike Week, you can use promo code Flannel. That is my promo code. Worked it out with BuyEm4 today. So if any of you want to check out the tools they have here, they do have. And I was going to find there's something I kept looking at. I told Eric this. I use the site pretty regularly during the season, and every time I'm like, I don't remember exactly where I am trying to go. They have a leaderboard somewhere here for. I'm not going to try and do it right now. We're gonna skip over this part of me looking up because they have something where you can actually see player exposures on Spike Week. So I was going to check that out. Eli Mitchell did go through a stream pod where he was 7th round. Did go through a steam. So he was steamed up to the 7th round. Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, but it was a brief period in time where he was steamed up. Okay, that makes sense. Dak in the 10th round. Yeah, there was some nutty things going on in these contests. We've probably talked enough about weekly winners. We can probably rip a draft now. And this is I have gone and I've erased my rankings. So we're going to be drafting off of ADP. Billy tells me that this is his first draft.
Let's fire it up, bud.
Yeah, let's fire it up. All right, hang on one sec.
I mean, at worst case, we'll have a bourbon and we'll just enjoy the conversation.
That's what I figure. That's I'll be and I have done several of these. But I have typically been most recently I've been using the legendary upside rankings. I think Spike Week has rankings. I was not actually, I'm not sure if they have rankings. To me, I've always used Spike Week primarily as a check in my rosters thing, and I have recently learned some of the more useful tools that they have on Spike Week that I was not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they probably have rankings that I have not used yet. But I have been consuming content from Splash Play, Chris Baggs, his content, from on Legendary Upside. I've been Spike Week, all of the different places you can consume best ball content, because I don't watch college football. I don't know shit about these rookies, so I've just been consuming content to kind of figure out who should I. Oh yeah, thank you, Steven, saying it for me, because he noticed that I have a frog in my throat. This is when I don't do content for a little while, I find it like eventually my throat starts going out halfway through. Yes, please do hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you want to get notifications, hit the notification button so you can get alerts when I go live. All right, we are almost live here. So do you watch any, we got the 101. Do you watch any college football?
So I live in Atlanta. I am a big UGA fan. So there's a couple of UGA guys that I will throw into consideration for us to draft later in later rounds.
Vaporware.
So where do you want to go here? Because I think that both of us kind of generally, it seems, again, we haven't talked about this in advance, but I'm generally a running back, don't matter guy. So to me, I don't know that I'm taking CMC here, but again, I'm open. I haven't done any of these before, so whatever you think, we'll go from there.
I've only been taking CMC 101 because it's what everybody does, and he's just so, like, if he's healthy, he is the 101. Otherwise, I actually really like Jamar Chase. Who do you want?
You pick.
Let's go CMC. Let's just do it. But I sort of feel like Jamar Chase is extremely undervalued. So people have been, so this is generally the order it goes: CMC, CD Lamb, Tyreek Hill. And then it kind of gets after the first two. It's usually CMC, CD Lamb. Oh, he goes, Zach goes Justin Jefferson first. But it's usually CMC, CD Lamb. And then it's a little bit like take your pick between Hill, Chase, and Justin Jefferson. So I love Justin Jefferson. Obviously, I'm a Minnesota guy, huge Vikings fan. I'm not a huge Vikings fan. It doesn't really ruin my day if they lose, but I am a Vikings fan. I like to have, I watch every game. I like to have Justin Jefferson. With that said, by the way, Steven, I believe Spags is we're gonna do a show together next week. I think on my channel. I don't know if we figured that out yet. But yeah, looking forward to that, because Spags does dive into these rookies. Anyway, I kind of feel like Jamar Chase is probably, I guess CeeDee Lamb had a really big year last year, so maybe he's right there too. But Jamar Chase, to me, like, had some injury issues this year. Joe Burrow was hurt. Like, I feel like there were things that hampered him that, like, are going to go away next year. And suddenly Jamar Chase is he's Jamar Chase again with Joe Burrow at quarterback again. And I don't really feel like things have gotten worse for his situation.
Is T. Higgins a free agent this year?
T. Higgins is a free agent. I think that it's my understanding he's a free agent. I do believe that I heard they're going to franchise tag him, though. Like the most recent rumors are that they're going to franchise tag him.
We've gotten to the point where I kind of turn off my football brain in general for a couple months, which is why I never do like these big board drafts, because I'll do some best ball. I actually am not traditionally a big best ball player, but I would only consider it in like July or August. We're just like 5 months from when I would even consider doing these.
Yeah. That's so I actually I did some of these last year, but I definitely took like a month off before I started doing these. This year, I think I'm keeping my football brain on. I'm going to try and get more into it, partially because this is the content that I'm doing right now. Obviously that is a part of it, but I also feel like it kind of helps to stay on top of things somewhat, to at least get an early start.
I see Marvin Harrison going at the 202.
Yeah, he's. I mean,
Not
people love
not
him.
a fan of that personally.
Yeah, so there are a lot of interesting. So, Monroe goes a little bit early here. Um, yeah, Brees Hall. These three running backs have all gone pretty early, and then this is actually really late for Kyron Williams. He's usually at the turn somewhere, so this he got him at the 15 is pretty good. Um, it is tough when it comes back around to us at the turn. I really,
Are we considering another 49er if Debo is there?
if they get back to us, they usually don't. So Debo and I usually go right before the turn.
Okay. It's
So
way too early
usually,
to take Kittle. But you know,
yeah, oh, yeah.
I'm not opposed to trying to grab if they fall to us. Obviously, we'd love to take Debo or Ayuk, and then for me, I'm going to probably go half a round early. Again, I don't know the ADPs to grab Purdy, and I'm going to guess like the 6th or 7th round.
So unfortunately, what we would have if we were going to reach for Purdy because of the way things fall. So his ADP is like usually around like 93, I want to say.
Okay,
So our pick will be 96. So because we have
we'd
the
have to
back
take
to
him
back,
2 rounds early.
we'd have to take him at 72 or 73, which is a little bit rich.
That's
And
a
I have
little
had him
aggressive.
fall to me at 96.
You have or you haven't?
I have, yeah.
Okay, well then we could. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens.
I have one very fun draft, which I'll wait to tell you about till after our turn here. So he goes Debo.
All right, so we have the possibility of Ayuk.
We do. We have the possibility. I see Stefan Diggs go. So I was kind of hoping that we would. I've never been able to get Diggs and Allen at the turn, which is kind of what I wanted. All right, so we can take Ayuk. Um, we could take Devonte Adams. So this is I have it sorted by ADP. Any of these names stand out to you as guys you like here?
I have no interest in Michael Pittman. I'll tell you
Okay.
that. Personally, I have no interest in Josh Allen. Like, I don't like taking quarterbacks early.
I feel like wide receiver, like the talent runs out quickly. I think wide receiver is probably our best bet here.
Mhm.
Of these wide receivers, anybody that you particularly like?
Yes, but it's not who you're going to like.
Say it. Tell me the name.
Tank Dell.
I actually like. I've taken him quite a bit. I usually take him later
It
just
feels
because
crazy to take him over Devonte Adams.
I'm good
But
with it, man.
I'm good with it. I mean, we're a year out.
I will say so now. If we want to go the CJ Stroud route, we're going to have to reach on him a little bit. So Stroud's ADP is actually not that much. So we're going to be able to pick 48, 49. His ADP is up to 50. So it's been. I didn't realize he had risen that high. So we could now take Stroud right on the next turn. I have seen sometimes people the Nico Collins drafter will take Stroud a little bit earlier these days.
Take him in the 4th round at whatever that is for this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be the 41st overall pick.
Yeah, man, this guy takes Josh Allen. I could be totally wrong on this. This is maybe something where I need to actually look at the stats more than just like my feeling. But I'm like, I don't really see Josh Allen as that different from Lamar Jackson. So I'm like, or Jalen Hurts. So I struggle to take Josh Allen in the second round when I'm like, you can get those guys 3rd round, sometimes 4th round. I don't know.
I would prefer Lamar in the 4th over Josh Allen in the 3rd, personally.
Me too. At this point, because the ADP is 2nd round, I would take Josh Allen in the 3rd just because it's unique. But like, yeah, in general, I'm like, I don't really see why people are taking Josh Allen so far ahead of Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I mean, I really love just hypothetically
Oh,
here
damn.
the fact that the Debo Samuel drafter at 22 took Josh Allen, which means that Purdy could, you know what I mean? Purdy could fall.
Yeah. Did you see this? Oh wait, I'm going to the wrong spot here. Purdy is up to ADP of 78. So the ADPs have apparently shifted quickly because I've been doing a ton of these drafts. I literally just drafted Purdy at 96 2 days ago. Oh yeah, so that was the team I was going to tell you about. So I have one really fun team, and it's in the $3 contest, I forget what it's called. But I have McCaffrey 101. I got Purdy and Debo and Ayuk at the next turn. The turn after that, I got I forget who I took there. It doesn't matter. But then I got George Kittle's ADP is like 65. He fell to me at 72, and then I got Purdy at 96. So I got all of the San Francisco guys on one team in a fashion that you can't usually do. So it was a pretty fun team.
Yeah, I love that. To me, unless some screaming value at running back falls to us, I don't want to take a running back until at least 2 more turns.
I'm generally the same way. Like sometimes if let's see if I kind of like James Cook if he fell to us, but he's actually not that far from ADP where we're drafting. So yeah, I think I'm generally with you.
I just feel like the more elite wide receivers just fall off a cliff. I'd rather potentially go two wide receivers at our next pick.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be, again, I'm not an expert on best ball. I wouldn't be opposed to starting like 6 straight wide receivers.
I mean, I do it all the time. And then I draft more. I've started drafting more running backs. I used to sometimes start, with 6 wide receivers and then still only take 5 running backs, or I guess sometimes 6. But I'm more and more waiting to draft running back and then just drafting more running backs who could be the guy. And especially this early in the year. So right now, with so many different spots where we don't know who the starting running back is going to be, I feel like it's extra advantageous to wait on running backs in general. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey is an exception. There are exceptions throughout, but
Will
in
you
general,
will you throw up the board so I can see what
well, so we do have the next pick.
Yeah.
All right, so we can take CJ Stroud here if you want.
What are the other wide receiver options?
So wide receiver, we got Zay Flowers, Amari Cooper, Jaden Reed, Jordan Addison, Odunze, Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin.
So not opposed to that. Quarterback.
So we have 2 picks in a row right now.
Okay, so yeah, let's take Stroud with one of them.
Yep.
I'm not opposed to that. And then maybe we take Jaden Reed here. Because if you want to take Jordan Addison, I know you're sort of a homer for the Vikings. We could do that. I feel like, again, I don't know. I haven't done any of these, but I feel like at the next turn we may be able to. Why can't I think of the Green Bay running back, Aaron Jones? We may be able to get Aaron Jones at the next turn. I haven't done any of these, so I'm hoping I'm not sounding like an idiot.
Oh, you're not sounding like an idiot. So he would be falling a little bit past ADP. Yeah. So his ADP is 65. So we would be getting him at 72. I think I've probably taken him that late before. It is certainly possible that he falls to us. But I'm not opposed to Jaden Reed in
because that gives us another, so at the next turn, if Purdy doesn't fall to us, we could then build a Green Bay, have a little bit of a Green Bay stack as well. If we're able to get Aaron Jones. You know what I mean? I like giving myself different directions of where this team could go.
Yeah. And that's so this is one of the reasons that I like to do like several drafts, like start early and keep going, is I know where people's ADP, and of course, apparently now I don't, because I'm telling you that we have that Purdy's ADP is 93, and then it's apparently up to 78. So things change quickly. But it is helpful just to know like where different players fall, because you kind of know like what you can hope for, what you can kind of try to build for. Like it used to be, you can try to build for, Jordan Love would fall to like mid 80s, and then you're hoping for Kyler Murray or Brock Purdy in the early 90s, and then if that doesn't work out, then Tua you can take it like 104. So there are, it does help to just like know where players generally fall for making your decisions, just like to try to figure out what stacks you want to take. I think that's one of the advantages of doing a lot of drafts. But yeah, it's totally would not be crazy if Aaron Jones falls to us at 72. Do you know any? So you told me you do watch some college football. You know anything about this Rome Odunze?
He's the number 2 wide receiver for Ohio State, I think. Okay. I hope I'm not just talking out of my ass here.
So you apparently don't know him very well if you're not sure where he goes to college. I don't either. It's just I've listened to some pieces of content. Sounds like he's pretty good. Worth taking.
I've listened to 0 pieces of content. This is just the college football that I've watched.
Yeah. I will say, so I listened to Spags' rookie rankings. He did, which I thought were excellent. If you're looking for stuff to watch, he did, and apparently nobody watches these. I'm like, to me, it's more valuable than just like watching a random draft. He did a breakdown of each position. He went position by position, just breaking down who he likes at positions. But the funny thing is he'd be like, yeah, I really like Marvin Harrison. Yeah, if he's going later than the 4th round, you should absolutely grab him. And then of course
He
he's going
went
to the 2nd round.
14.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it was, given
All right.
what I think
Aaron
is
Jones
great
just went
advice.
off the board at 61.
All right.
The dream is dead.
But it just goes to show you how far like rookies have gotten hyped up. People are just drafting. Tyjae Spears, another guy that I love here. So, because I think Derrick Henry might be out for Tennessee. I think he's likely to be out. So I think Tyjae Spears probably going to be the guy there.
Mm-hmm.
So I've drafted a lot of him. Man, George Kittle up to ADP of 61. This is things. The landscape is changing quickly.
Yeah, I don't know that we could go. I mean, it would be an interesting discussion if he fell to us. I feel like that's too much draft stock, too much high picks on all guys from one team.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was telling you. I had the same thought. Like I drafted what I think was a fun team, taking Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle, only because it's like impossible to do. So it's like if they do crush, but like once it gets to the playoffs, it's gonna be hard for all of those players to hit week to week. So I don't know. It's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of in a complete valley of death here of wide receiver. You know what I mean? Like all ADP
True.
is a whole bunch of running backs here.
Which is why it is like advantageous, I think, to take a lot of wide receivers early on.
Mm-hmm.
Because you get to a certain point, it's like, do you love these wide receivers? Like I like Hopkins kind of, but he's also like they all have warts. I don't really know anything about Brian Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
You got the other Green Bay receivers coming up. I don't know. It's just it gets ugly in a hurry.
Yeah. And the thing with Green Bay is that, if you grab Aaron Jones, who obviously we didn't get him, he went at like 60th. Like you have Christian Watson, you have Dontavion Wicks, you have these guys that are falling where you can build these stacks of like basically all the primary guys that you'd want.
We are up. Kincaid did fall a little bit. We could take Kincaid. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't mind taking that.
I think if we're queuing anybody up while we're talking, it's Brock Purdy.
All right, we can do that. Yeah, I guess it's not that far ahead.
He's not going to follow us at 90 something. I doubt.
Yeah. No, you're right. We can queue up Brock Purdy. So I did see today Tony Pollard. I saw a quote of him saying he felt the best he felt all year, starting in like week 13 against Carolina, and he was actually really good after that week. So I was like, all right, maybe he is actually a pretty good value here in the 7th round. We
Pull
could
up
go
tight end. Let's see what our options are if we pass on Kincaid.
Oh yeah, we could get Jake Ferguson.
Yeah,
Kyle
I'm
Pitts,
not rushing to take a tight end. There's plenty of decent.
All right,
left.
we have 8
You
seconds
here.
All right, let's go DeAndre Hopkins. I feel like he's the last of a tier of wide receiver. So I'm going to go there. All right, so we've got 2 quarterbacks, and we took 2 quarterbacks pretty early. We've made bets on Stroud and Purdy. I think we're done.
We're not taking another quarterback.
Yeah.
If they happen to be the same bye week, that's just how the cookie crumbles.
You just can't know. You just can't know at this point. All right. Zach says Odunze was on Washington. Vapor says he took Odunze in the 2023 big board. Damn. Oh, that's rough. I haven't even thought about that possibility of drafting a rookie who does not actually come out. The vividness bias on their national championship run leads to the market overlooking as red flags. Oh, interesting. See, this is the kind of thing I don't even know I don't know which teams we're in. That's how
I told you we played
attention.
on a different fucking team. So
true.
Yeah. We don't claim to be experts on the rookies.
Yeah, but as I said, I did watch Spags' deep dive. He has spreadsheets. He actually, I believe he said that he shares those spreadsheets too. So that's another thing you could check out. I think if you subscribe to his channel, he has breakdowns. Maybe I'll do that next year. Definitely not something I'm going to be getting into this year with the college guys.
Yeah, with my UGA bias, I was going to say if Brock Bowers fell to us at the 8-9 turn, that's who I would have wanted to go as potentially our first tight end. But
see, to me, I'm a little bit worried. So, last year we had Sam Laporta worked out, Dalton Kincaid worked out, but they were both going like, I don't know, 11th, 12th round, like at their peak. I don't know if they got that much, maybe 10th round. I don't know. But so like seeing Brock Bowers in the top 80 picks, like to me is like, is he getting steamed too much? I don't know.
There's
I
probably
honestly don't know.
4 or 5 rookie running backs that I would be much more willing to just fire on in the 9th, 10th turn or the 11th, 12th turn. I'm much more open to doing that. Like it just your cost, you know.
Steven says, I am staying away from Hopkins, turns 32 in June. Steven, you of all people having an age bias. I mean, us old guys got to stick together. But yeah, I totally get that. Like I'm a little bit concerned about Hopkins as well with the age. Like that is, but that's like the only war. Like he was still getting, maybe not the only war. I guess we don't fully know his situation.
I mean, he plays for a team that likes to run the ball.
Yeah. True. There are warts there. Although I guess I don't really know. I feel like there were rumors that they were gonna trade him or something. I guess he's under contract for one more year. Maybe
They
that
fired
was
their
wishful
coach,
thinking.
you know.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Oh yeah. This is you're a UGA fan. What is your see? I didn't know that he was on UGA, but I'm gathering that he was. What's your Lad McConkey take?
Oh, Lad McConkey. He's somebody I'm interested in. He has like an uncanny ability of getting open.
That's a
That's
good skill
one
to
thing
have.
that translates to the NFL. Like if you can get separation against every team you play against in the SEC, that likely will translate. I mean, he's not a big guy, but you know, he's somebody that I think we'll have interest in our draft. Not this turn, but the next one potentially.
Yeah.
I have no idea what his ADP is. I'm not doing any of these. I'm hoping we're not sounding too much like an idiot. But
I think he's going around like pick 140-ish, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
hey, so we'll see.
Haven't checked on how my DFS is going. Yeah, not going great, I don't think. I made a lot of bets tonight on Anthony Edwards being out, and then did not really spend the time to. Oh, he had 18 points in the first. I love Ant, but that is not ideal for me because I built without Ant, and I thought about adjusting late, and then I was like, "Screw it, we're about to go live. I'm not going to bother." And that's apparently was not the right decision.
It's okay. You can't win every slate.
That's true. All right, so we have our quarterbacks. We have.
Yeah, where are we at? All right. Yeah. So
here's what our team looks like. So we have Stroud, we have Purdy. So we're not drafting. There's nobody from Houston or San Francisco coming up right now. We do not have a tight end yet. There are a few good tight ends still available that we could take.
So what is your take on tight ends? I think the play is either 2 or 3. I think that if we're able to get 2 of, Jake Ferguson, Kyle Pitts, TJ Hawkinson, if you're able to get 2 of the, the every game starters who, are seeing multiple, targets every week, I don't think you need more than 2. But I think if we're completely punting on tight end, I think we probably want 3 of them.
So I have the exact same take. You basically always take 2 or 3, and it just depends on how good the tight ends are that I take. I really think Kyle Pitts is interesting here, where he's going at ADP. He was later when I started drafting. He was like ADP of 108. But I feel like with a new coach, like things could just change, and a new quarterback, things could change drastically for Atlanta. So
sure,
to me, he's kind of a slam dunk here. Do you agree with that?
Yep, I'm happy to take a tight end here. What's our? I guess navigate over to the running backs and see. I know who we have. Who's available?
So it's Javonte Williams, Jalen Warren, DeAndre Swift would be the next 3.
No one that I'm running to take. I don't see a big difference between those guys and a little bit later down in the draft. I don't know that I want to go back to back tight ends, but we could.
I kind of think that we should. And to me, I actually
sure.
I feel like with if we took Hawkinson, I would still be inclined to take 3 tight ends just because I think he's going to miss at least like 6 to 8 games to start the season. So
from here on out, I think we're probably not taking another tight end or another quarterback.
Correct. Agreed. I guess we could have. I guess that's something we could have considered doing is skipping over Goddard and going with Schultz in the next round because I think his ADP is around 130. 120, so he's down to 126. So he would not have been that much of a reach to take with our next pick.
That's okay. Can't live in the past.
Yeah, I feel like we could have taken one of these running backs just because it does, like when you see the running backs that come up around 120, I guess
I
we
mean,
just
I think if he's there, Singletary is probably the pick because we've already made a bet on Tank Dell
yeah,
and Stroud.
agreed. And he very well could be there too.
He probably will. He's not an exciting name to click. And then maybe we take a shot at a rookie running back.
Yeah, so that's the so I've been drafting a lot of rookie running backs. I think I've drafted probably too much of Jonathan Brooks, who is I think like generally considered the top running back in the class, but also like tore his ACL. Here's something if anybody in chat wants to chime in. I think he might miss a good amount of time. Is kind of the what I've been hearing recently. Do you know anything about Jonathan Brooks?
I don't.
Okay.
Actually, the wide receiver who just went, Troy Franklin, was someone that I was interested in.
Yeah.
Um, again, flashed a lot in college, but again, it doesn't always translate. But to me, we're getting to the point of the draft where I'm willing to start taking rookies. Like I
Oh
don't
yeah.
want to take them in the first 4 or 5 rounds. There's just certainly not this early in February where there's so many unknowns.
Troy Franklin is a guy who, so again, listening to actually, I think Spags. I feel like every one of the sources that I listen to were big on Troy Franklin. I think that I heard that Legendary Upside was high on Troy Franklin. I know Spags like loved him. He was there. I think he was Spags' fourth overall wide receiver. I believe Spike Week also loved Troy. I could be wrong. Um, but yeah, so if he had come back to us at 120, definitely would have been. 97 is a little bit of a reach. I think that his ADP is somewhere in like the 113 to 117 range. So it would have hoped for him to fall. But
Sure.
I have done this a few times. What our RB is doing here, where he took both of the rookie quarterbacks, and what I do sometimes is if I drafting like did he do, so he took DJ Moore was his first pick. Occasionally I'll draft Bears and Commanders and then take all three of the good rookie quarterbacks and then just be like, well, hopefully they
One of them
go
is going to end up there.
two of the three go to the Bears and the Commanders. And I don't know,
Yeah.
just it's usually
That's
when
not,
things kind of fall apart. Like I have a plan to take a couple other quarterbacks and they get sniped. It's kind of like a backup thing that I do is taking all the rookie quarterbacks. But I don't totally hate it.
yeah. Again, I'm not a huge best ball, like season long guy, but a lot of things that I did a little bit differently in the just the regular playoff best ball, I was ignoring ADP a lot and just saying
Yeah.
like I just want to build a good team, and I don't care if it means I'm taking a guy a round or two early. Like I'm trying to build a stack, and that's what I'm going to do. So to me, ADP it's a nice guide of like where you should be considering guys or where you could expect players to be, but to me, that's not the end all be all. I generally ignore it.
Yeah, I pay attention to it for the like who can I push to the next to my next pick typically is usually what I'm thinking about with ADP and I think it was more likely we're gonna be able to push Troy Franklin than Dallas Goedert, for example. So that's why it's like, yeah, I kind of like them equally.
Sure.
So in that case, I'll take the guy who is not going to make it to my next pick generally. Although I
Okay,
have
so just running back and wide receiver here in the players that we're considering.
Yep. So here we go.
I think Singletary probably doesn't fall 24 more picks. So he's probably one guy because we've already made that bet.
Yeah, Singletary
You
would
okay
be
with that?
if he makes it back to us. We might be making a mistake sometimes talking about these players before. No, we kind of need to though for the time. That's the hard thing about streaming these is we have enough people watching us while we're streaming that it's like, okay, now people are going to take our guy. Oh, he made it back to us. All right, so we got our Singletary. You want to go? So I don't love Tyler Lockett or Dotson either.
I don't either.
So I'd be fine going Singletary, Hubbard, Chandler. I've been drafting more Zamir White than Zach Charbonnet, but I actually don't hate Charbonnet either. What do you think? So I guess we'll go Singletary to start, and then for our second pick, any of these running backs that you particularly like?
I scroll down more. Here's where I'm maybe willing to. What's the ADP on Adonai Mitchell, who's an ex UGA guy, 136? He might still be there. What about Lad McConkey? He's probably a little higher.
142.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to get one of them in the next round. Okay. Well, we take him
All right.
here. That's cool.
Yeah, we were just running out of time. So
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, to me, I'm not running to draft Ty Chandler or Zach Charbonnet or, you know, to me, there's not enough upside there for me personally to feel like I have to prioritize them.
I mean, to me, there's enough upside for the 11th round, though.
What do we got here in terms of breakdown? Sorry.
So we have 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 5 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. And a reminder, we have 20 picks in these drafts.
Yep.
So we've taken 11 so far.
I think we're firing running back, wide receiver the rest of the way.
Yeah, agreed.
Ideally end with like 2-8-8-2 or something, you know, or 2-7-9-2, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds. That's where the kind of depends on where we get talent that falls. We can kind of make that decision by feel as we see who ends up on our team. Jim Money, what is up? Good to see you here. It's been a minute. And if you didn't see Vaporware says Brooks should be back October, maybe early November. But then I'm like, even when he comes back, like he's probably not going to be a full go right away, right? Like returning from what is it, an ACL?
Yeah, I mean Blake Corum is interesting. I don't know that he'll fall to us, but he might.
Yeah, no, I have not drafted much Blake Corum like at all. And I was just listening to Bime4 earlier today was saying that he's a guy who he thinks could end up on like the Chargers. So I'm like, all right, maybe I need to consider the possibility he ends up being a starting running back somewhere.
I mean, he looked great in college. I mean, it's so hard to see what's going to translate.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing with drafting rookies. Like it's worth it to draft them. We've seen every year like that best ball has been around. Some of these rookies that go really late. I mean, Puka Nacua this year, like nobody, or I guess maybe not nobody, but very few of us saw Puka Nacua coming. Like you see it happen every year that it's like you want to take some chances on some rookies that are going to work out.
For sure. Did he not just go in the first round in our draft here?
Yes, he did. And that's his ADP. He goes in the first round literally every draft that I've been in. Which is nuts, considering he was a last round pick last year.
Yeah.
All right, where are we? My wife keeps trying to call me. We gotta see if I can text her.
Yeah, make sure it's not an emergency. We're just doing a big board draft. We can auto draft the rest of the way. It'll be okay.
Yeah, no, she's only calling me. She is in Florida right now. She would have texted me by now if it was an emergency. And also, there's nothing I could do about it because she's in Florida right now. No, she's just
probably slightly nicer than Minnesota.
Yeah, it's she sent videos last night. She was actually at Disney last night. She's in Orlando. It looked like she was having a very good time. I've never been to Disney. I've been to Florida, but never Disney. She's there for work, so it's not all fun for her. But
sure.
Yeah. Well, just want to make sure she's tried calling me a couple times. Okay, good. My text went through, so she should be able to see that I'm. But yeah, so we don't usually talk on the phone that much these days since we live together. So it's different now. Like she's gone, suddenly getting calls from her at random times of the day.
It's when you worry.
Yeah. All right. So coming up. So again, yeah, I agree with you. We're going for just running backs and wide receivers here. I've been probably my biggest go-to has been Jaleel McLaughlin, who sadly already went in this one. To me, he feels fairly safe, like high floor and mega ceiling kind of player. Like he's probably going to be the RB2. Maybe they don't bring back Samaje Perine. Anything happens to Javonte Williams, I actually think he could pass Javonte Williams. So I'm like, to me, he is a smash at. This is right around his ADP.
Okay.
Sadly, did not make it back to us for this one. Now, how do you feel about Dontavian Wicks? Oh, we didn't get Love. Any of these players that you like? Dontavian Wicks, Khalil Herbert, we could go with Kendry Miller. Do you like
Keep
Bucky
scrolling.
Irving? I kind of like Audric Estime.
Okay, let's do it.
Mostly because of Spags. He's a player that, and he's another one that Spags talked about. I'm like, he's my favorite running back from the past 2 classes. Like he's right there with
Okay, so no
What's his name?
idea what his ADP is.
Let's
Out
see.
of curiosity, J.K. Dobbins?
Oh, we can get him in the last round if we want him, or
Okay.
close to it.
Hey, I haven't done any of these before. Literally
No,
just
yeah.
firing off the hip here.
Xavier Worthy, Dontavian Wicks. Dontavian Wicks kind of fell, so I wouldn't mind taking him. We already have Jaden Reed. Make the bet on those two.
Sure.
Bucky Irving. All right, we're going Wicks. Just in the interest of time. So now we're at 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. We have 3 running backs and 6 receivers now.
Okay. I would say when we get back to like 3 or 4 picks before us,
Yep.
I would say let's unhighlight or like re-highlight quarterback and tight end just to make sure that like there's not an extreme value that has fallen.
I like that idea. I was kind of thinking we should have done that. Because it could be like if Dalton Schultz had been there for that pick, we probably should have taken Dalton Schultz. Hopefully he's gone. But yeah, it's a good idea. But yeah, so Audric Esme again. So I don't watch college football. I know nothing about him other than Spags talking about him saying he's his favorite running back from the past 2 years. And then he went back on it and said, well, maybe Bijan. But I'm like, damn, if you're putting him in the Bijan tier. And then I've seen other people on Twitter talking about him similarly. Like he's just a great prospect. So
I like the Tennessee kid.
Who's that?
We got to pull back up the board again.
Do you think he went already or no?
No. He's a running back.
You mean an incoming rookie, like from
Marshawn Lloyd.
He's another one that I have been. When I started drafting these, I actually I think he was high in the legendary upside ranks, and he has. I think a lot of people are drafting off of the legendary upside ranks because they were one of the first rankings available. So he has gotten steamed up like 20, 30 picks, I think, from the beginning of the drafts. But yeah, I've drafted a good amount of him. Just credit to legendary upside for.
Yeah, he's a USC guy. He looked good there too.
Yeah, I mean, if he makes back. Oh, and J.K. Dobbins, I guess he's got an ADP of like 185. So we could take J.K. Dobbins with this next round of picks. Yeah, he definitely is interesting to me. Like he's great when he's healthy. If he can just stay healthy one of these years. All right.
What about Jalen Wright? Spelled with a W.
Jalen Wright. Never heard of him.
Last round pick. Put him in the queue.
Yep. All right. Now I'm trying. There was some rookie wide receiver. I think he's a wide receiver that Beimfor was talking about today. And now I'm trying to remember what the name was, but he was talking about somebody being like a smash pick that he wants to take. I think it might be Malik Washington, who I do not believe I've drafted yet.
Yeah, Malik Washington, I want to say played for like Western Kentucky.
Yeah, so now he's
not literally just talking out of my ass here.
There's some of these, so I'm trying to think. I think Leggett maybe is somebody that Spags liked. There was another one. Who else was it?
I want to take J.K. Dobbins if he's there at the turn.
Okay, we can do that. Maybe you already went there. There was another rookie wide receiver who I've started drafting that I could credit Spags for. I think he also is ranked pretty well. No, I want to say it's Johnny Walker, like the.
Okay, you just got whiskey on the mind.
Maybe I do. Johnny Wilson. Okay, Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson.
All right, so we can take.
So no quarterback, tight end, just screaming value.
Yeah, so we can ignore those. Oops. I'm doing the opposite of what I'm supposed to do. All right.
Okay.
All right. So you want to take J.K. Dobbins?
I want to take Dobbins here. Yeah.
I'm into it. And then other than Dobbins, we could take Tyler Algier, Keaton Mitchell, Elijah. Oh, we could take Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather take unknowns here.
Let's go Lloyd.
Yeah, we'll take the USC kid.
All right. So we are up to 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 6 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends.
All right. So we got 15 picks. We got a couple more guys to go.
And I like what we've done with the running back. So we took CMC first overall. Obviously, we made the bet that he's going to be Christian McCaffrey again. And then we
Yep.
waited until Singletary at pick 120. I feel like we've got a good mix here.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much unknown with running back, especially with all the rookies. Like, I'm supportive of waiting and just kind of rolling the dice and seeing if we get lucky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I gotta bring up the board. I always forget, people watching streams really like when you bring up the board so they can see what everybody else is doing. I
I
never do
like
that
it
when I'm
too.
drafting. Yeah, no, I never do it when I usually draft on my phone, so I forget to do it when I'm doing it on these streams.
I
Jim Money
usually throw
says,
it up on a second monitor, and that way I can kind of
"Oh, do you
follow
really?"
along kind of both
Interesting.
ways.
Jim says Malik Washington is a big play speed guy. Okay, that sounds like a good best ball pick.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I
I
sometimes
do
feel
think
like,
it's Western Kentucky too.
is it
I kind of want to
interesting?
look it up so that I don't keep saying something that's completely wrong, but I'm going to.
I do feel like people sometimes make the mistake when talking about
Oh,
like
UVA.
spike week. Okay. Spike week receivers. I feel like people conflate spike week receivers with splash play players. Like, I think it's funny. I'm naming two different sites, splash play and spike week. But I do think that like sometimes people make the mistake of, oh, Jameson Williams, like, oh, he has the potential of a 50-yard touchdown. He is therefore a spike week player, whereas a player who gets 10 targets but they're all short is not a spike week player. And they think of, like, I feel like people mistake what those terms mean. Like a spike week player, the guy who gets 10 targets, if he catches 8 of them and happens to score a touchdown, that's a spike week. Whereas Jameson Williams might have a 50-yard touchdown, that's his only catch of the game. That's
That's
not
his
a
only
spike week.
target.
Like people I think mistake what those terms actually mean sometimes, and like just think of spike week as the speedy guy who can have a long touchdown. It's like, no, you can have a spike week from just catching the ball 8 times and maybe 2 of them are in the end zone. Like, I don't know. But yeah,
Yeah,
like he's an exciting player.
it's rare to see that. Why can't I think of his name? Deontay Johnson. It's rare to see that type of usage in terms of targets every week for a guy that probably got drafted in the 9th or 10th round.
Yeah, true.
I mean, not a ton of ceiling, but a reasonably solid floor for years.
What? So I would Jacoby Myers, I think, is like the perfect example of somebody that I think does have spike weeks, and I've had this conversation with Chess Liam before, who like thought he was a horrible pick a couple years ago, and I was like, I drafted a lot of him. I thought he was a really solid, like I think he was like a 12th round pick or something. And he's like, he clearly is not like the sexy like long play guy, but like he just gets so many targets, so many catches, and then like you convert some of them to touchdown, suddenly you've got a spike week. So I don't know. I think that's the kind of player. It's like, yeah, maybe doesn't have splash plays, but definitely has the occasional spike weeks. And this year, of course, was a little bit different. He actually scored touchdowns this year, whereas the previous year he had like a ton of catches and none of them were in the end zone.
Okay, so where we want to prep for here, we looking. I think we could probably need to take at least one of our 2 picks. Probably needs to be a wide receiver.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement there. Yeah, our wide receivers are a little bit lacking. So I am a big fan of Andre Yoshevitz, and maybe I'm totally wrong on this, but I feel like if they do not get T. Higgins back, he could end up being the wide receiver 2. If T. Higgins does come back, which is looking more likely now, I still think like if he takes on, like I think from what I've heard, Tyler Boyd is almost certainly gone from Cincinnati, and I think Yoshevitz was good this year. I think this is a spike week take. I kind of feel like he takes on that Tyler Boyd role. You're getting Tyler Boyd level of productivity in the 16th, 17th round. Like, to me, that's a fantastic pick.
Perfect. Cue him up. There's no one I'm dying to take ahead of him.
All right. Jalen Hyatt, sort of interesting. Speaking of a splash play guy, could go there. Rico Dowdle, we could make the bet that Tony Pollard leaves and Rico Dowdle stays and has a role. I think there's no guarantee that he has a role. Here, I'll scroll down for you and I'll get rid of quarterbacks and tight ends. So we're taking Andre Yoshevitz, and then I'll scroll. Miles Sanders, I think, is an interesting pick. I think they only have 2 running backs in Carolina. I think that was a legendary upside pick who I kind of agree with. I think he's interesting. Rashad Bateman, to me, this year still was a little bit hurt. I think he could come back. I think he's a great late round bet to make. All right, I'll cue him up. Kenneth Gainwell would not be shocking to me to see him take over as the RB1 in Philadelphia. So I kind of like him.
I kind of like Rashad Bateman, and then let's take let's see what happens to us in 20 picks. We'll definitely be able to get a couple of these later round running backs.
True. All right, so we got Bateman. So we are up to 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 8 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. I feel like we just made our I like our wide receiver depth a little bit better now. Like it was a little bit lacking when Dontavian Wicks is our wide receiver 6. That's not great, but I do feel like Yoshua and Bateman are pretty good 7th and 8th receivers there.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all.
All right, so we have 3 more picks. So I'm feeling. I was thinking after I queued up Bateman, I guess we could have taken Malik Washington there. Like
we could have.
But
we could also consider late round if he's there. Again, I don't know the ADPs, but if he's there at 18, 19 turn, open to considering like Brevin Jordan.
Yeah, he's
usually would be a third tight end. But we do have that bet on on the Texans.
True. I don't hate that. We'll go Brevin Jordan. Steven with me on Gainwell. Do you have any thoughts on Kenneth Gainwell? Like I feel like DeAndre Swift, I think, is no longer under contract and like was kind of losing favor. Like Gainwell was almost up to a split backfield towards the end of the year.
I mean, to me, if you're asking me who the goal line back is for the Eagles, it's Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
So,
but I'm not
running to take an Eagles running back personally. But again, we're in the 18th round. So
yeah, exactly. It's like even if he's not the goal line back, if he just has a decent role, gets 10, 12 touches a week, I'll take it in this round.
So Neil, I don't need to bore our subscribers. Are you full-time DFS?
I guess I am at this point. My volume is way down from where it was a couple years ago. Like I'm tonight I have like $400 in play, which is actually more than I've been playing recently. So no, sure. I would not call myself a full-time I would not call myself like a professional DFS player at this point.
Sure.
I don't play that high of volume. I'm not sure that I am good enough these days to be a full-time DFS player. Like I think that the field has just gotten so good that unless you're doing your own thing, you have really advanced tools. I feel like it's a tough game to beat for most of us. So no, I'm not full-time DFS. I am unemployed. So in that sense, I guess I could make the argument that I am. But no, I would say I'm doing this full-time. I'm just getting into like trying to set up this channel, trying to figure out what I want to do with this channel is what I would say is my my current life plan.
Nice.
How about you? Are you a full-time DFS?
I can't see likes and comments until you pull them up on the screen, so I have no idea if folks are tuning in and still with us an hour and a half into the stream. But I guess we'll see afterwards.
Yeah, I mean it's not. I don't have a ton of viewership at this point. It's not like but it's I'm getting the channel going, hoping it can go places. But yeah, I mean I haven't even monetized it at this point. It's just I'm at this point largely just getting set up, doing it for the hell of it, doing it for fun.
Basically most of my content is I'm happy that I do get paid for it, but I would do it even if they didn't pay me.
So is this what you do full time? Are you a full-time content creator?
No, I work for SAP. I'm an account manager. I like sales.
Oh, I knew that.
Software sales.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid getting back into the 9-to-5 life. So I'm trying to figure out how I want to go about monetizing doing DFS content, and I'll probably do DFS content for various places. But yeah, no, I would not, or DFS / best ball, I guess I should say. But no, I'm not full-time DFS at this point. I feel like it's a tougher game than best ball is at this point. So I'm more interested in best ball, all the new types of offerings. I still play DFS. I still love DFS, but I feel like it's so much tougher than it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it definitely.
All right, We are coming up on our turn.
Sorry to say, Kenneth Gainwell went.
Kenneth Gainwell did go.
Were you interested in my my Jalen pick, running back?
Hell yeah, why not? I have not taken him yet. Oh, he
And
went.
he's gone.
All right. Bummer.
Bummer. We can't draft a guy you had never heard of. I could feel the disappointment.
One guy that I've been taking a lot of, again, because of, I would say, legendary upside, and also, I believe, Spike Week. Also, Eric said today, Israel Abanikanda. I think people are expecting him to be the running back 2 for the Jets, so that's kind of interesting to me.
I think we need to take at least one running back with this pick.
All right, let's take a look at the running backs. So I'm going to queue him up, but until we see anybody else, we've got Alexander Madison there if you want him. I'm not an AJ Dillon guy. I don't think I'm taking him this year.
AJ Dillon's terrible.
Dylan Laube, I don't know much about him. Ronnie Rivers, I've heard some people are interested in. Deontay Foreman.
There's no one here I'm losing sleep if we don't pick. So I'm cool with your Israel.
All right, and then as far as wide receivers go, I kind of like some of the late round Houston guys. Is make a bet on what's his name? X.
Yeah, Xavier something. Hutchinson, I think
is yeah. Or who's the other one? John Mechie.
Yeah, let's grab one of them.
All right. I'm gonna go. I went Hutchinson over Mechie.
Cool.
And then we could go. I mean, I guess we could do. We have one more pick. We could go either of those. I think we could go John Mechie or your guy Brevin Jordan. I think if either of those make it back to us,
could go Noah Brown too.
Noah Brown, I believe, is going to be gone from Houston this year, but yeah, still could be a good bet somewhere else.
It could.
I believe that's what I've heard, is that he's likely to be gone. All right, let's bring the board back up. One final pick here. But that was a good reminder. You brought up, like, what are we going to be doing? Steven says, with all the people using Sims, I feel like there could be an advantage to people using Sims, but not knowing the players and other contexts, important things to consider. I actually agree with you, Steven. I think that a lot of people are getting into the Sims and just taking the top 150 lineups, and they're all very similar. So, like, if you look at different various Sims, if you don't try to spread out your portfolio at all, sometimes you're going to get 100% of certain players who you should not be playing in 100% of your lineups. Just does not make sense. So I think a lot of people are going to use the Sims wrong, and then are also going to be, I mean, I've noticed this year, seeing screenshots in years past playing NBA DFS, you would never see screenshots of like a 5-way dupe train winning. Like, it just, people weren't landing on the same lineup so much. That's happening this year. So I'm just getting back into NBA. I think there is some possibility that you can beat the Sims. Like, it actually might end up. I've heard the argument that it can be helpful that a lot of people are using Sims if you get different. So it might not be completely unbeatable at this point. I haven't been playing very high volume recently in DFS. I think I've been playing for over a decade, just a little bit burnt out. So I think I kind of got to a point where it's just like, I don't feel like playing a ton of DFS every day. Finishing your brother just cheersing me.
Both.
So yeah, I agree with you, Steven. It could be an advantage. I also think, honestly, since I've started doing content, so I feel like doing content has drastically hurt my DFS play. Like, I can see it looking at like my roto tracker. Like, I got a lot worse at DFS as soon as I started doing content. And I think it's a combination of telling everybody exactly how I play. I think a lot of people started playing similarly to the way that I play. Kind of takes away my advantage. I also like talking about specific plays. Sometimes people, like the guy who would have been 1% owned is now 2% owned, and that actually makes a huge difference. But then I think on top of it is just I did so much live before lock and that type of stuff that it's so hard to, like, you forget how much I actually am working on my lineups, like really focused. When I was playing my best, I was really like the last hour before lock, not really listening to much content or doing anything, just really focusing on my lineups, getting them exactly how I want them. And so I haven't been playing as well recently. And I think that probably has contributed to the burnout.
It's tough to put out content in the time, the hour leading up to lock. Like,
Yeah. Yep. So it's been a rough go of it for me in DFS, and I've just drastically lowered my volume as well. So I've started to do better recently. I guess since I got let go, I've been playing a little bit better in DFS. But yeah, definitely not a full-time player. But good reminder of, I am curious if anybody wants to share their opinions of what you would like to see me do with this channel. One thing that I've been thinking about doing is starting up a podcast again. So I don't know if you're familiar, Billy, with I used to do the High Stakes podcast at Stochastic, where I would interview top DFS players, best ball players, etc. I kind of like to do something similar here, where, I mean, we kind of are doing it tonight. Like, just I'm having you on, we're talking about this stuff, but like maybe without the draft, like starting up a podcast where I am just straight up asking questions about people's play style, background, etc. of various players, both players of DFS best ball, but also, content creators, just people in the industry. I kind of would like to do something like that again. Would be curious to hear if people are interested in something like that. If you prefer just doing ripping drafts, what are you guys interested in?
Well, I'll let the the viewers comment. To me, we were talking earlier on, whatever, an hour and a half ago when we first got on. I was just in Arizona with a bunch of really smart DFS players, and I really enjoyed the golf tournament. I liked watching the Super Bowl, but honestly, like, my favorite thing about the weekend of just talking to the guys and just listening to Tambo talk about how he does his things, or another sharp golf guy, Benet. We went and did Pop Stroke, and a bunch of us are playing, mini golf together and just kind of talking about, what's your process like. And honestly, that was like my favorite part of the weekend, was just other successful players listening to how they do things and why they think this way. And to me, that was super interesting.
Yeah, that's why I started doing the podcast originally. And I really enjoyed doing those conversations. So I don't know, I'm figuring out exactly what I'm doing with the channel, but I think that is, did I lose the, we see this now? Yeah. Having those conversations, I feel it's kind of interesting. And now I can do it, in the evening with a bourbon in hand. I feel like you can have a fun conversation with a live audience. Also, like my podcasts have been, not with a live audience in the past. So that'd be kind of interesting. Low volume process. Interesting. I am the KY. Yeah, I mean, I could have various guests on with different processes. All right, we are coming up on our pick coming up. So we have 6 running backs, 9 wide receivers. So our running backs are McCaffrey. You want a running back, you think?
I think so.
Okay. I'm good with that.
You
so
pick.
Who's available? We could go Dylan Labe, Ronnie Rivers. Let's see. We got a couple.
Is there a wide receiver that is jumping out to you,
or
tight end, or quarterback? Like, let's open them all up. And is there anybody that's standing out to you that you feel is just good value?
I had Mechie queued up just because he would be part of our stack.
Yeah.
All right, and we have we're
going Mechie. Let's do it.
All right, I'm good with that. I think that we have a strong enough team there. Let's see, and then now we can take a look at it. And of course, if we make it to the final,
you got to name it. You got to name it. StatATL, and I'll send you $5. I'll split it with you in case we win 200,000. I will expect 100K coming this month.
Yeah, you don't even just split it with me. You just if we make it to the final, we will split the winnings for this lineup. I'll name it. Don't you worry. We got CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy as our quarterbacks. CMC, Devin Singletary, Audric Estime, J.K. Dobbins, Marshawn Lloyd, and Israel Abanikanda as our running backs. At wide receiver, we have Ayuk, Tank Dell, Jaden Reed, DeAndre Hopkins, Ladd McConkey, Dontavian Wicks, Andre Yoshevitz, Rashad Bateman, Xavier Hutchinson, and John Mechie. So we went both of those potential wide receiver 3s for Houston. And then at tight end, we have Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert. I don't hate it. I feel like our running backs I think they're actually fine because we have McCaffrey, like we have our anchor there. We only took 5 others, but we got Singletary, who I think is a pretty solid bet. Estimate sounds like a lot of people love him, a lot of upside there. Lloyd, a lot of people love him, a lot of upside there. And then I think Abanaconda is like just a solid RB2. J.K. Dobbins kind of.
And you appease me by taking J.K. Dobbins, so I love that for us.
I mean, I think he's got that that upside. I think he's worth taking. Yeah, Steven. In general, I would say that that's true too for me. It says I like the interview format. Lately, I've enjoyed streams that talk more about process than picks. I think that's typically my preference. Also, obviously depends on the slate. If there's news and stuff, I like this idea from Jim Money. Do like hot ones, but with shots. We could do that. Yeah, and then Steven says PJ got better listening to Tambo and DGen75, who are now teamed up with Ship It Nation. Thank you for the reminder, Vaporware. Thank you for hanging out. It was a fun stream. Where can people find you, Billy?
I am in a lot of Discords as StatATL. You can find me on Twitter, probably searching by StatATL, or you gave it out earlier, W Gableman, Gabelman, or on Instagram, for, like if you're playing golf, FORE, for Bourbon and Golf.
And you can find it here on the 1 week season team page. You can find your Instagram is linked there as well.
Very cool. Well, so, Neil, it was awesome. It was awesome chatting with you. If you're looking for guests as we get into more closer to NFL season, love to come on and talk process there. I feel like that's really where the strength in my DFS game is. But it was awesome drafting a team with you. Might be my only big board team all year, so my fingers will be crossed.
Yeah, we started talking because we wanted. You suggested, well, if you want to have a guest on next year to talk about playoff weekly winners going into, I was like, well, how about we just do a recap this week? And I just roped you into a 2-hour-long stream drafting a big board team. So I appreciate you coming on, Billy. That was a lot of fun having you on. Appreciate you hanging out, and appreciate all of you in chat hanging out with us throughout this show. Again, if anybody out is watching this later on, you have thoughts on what I should do with the channel, if you're interested in interview format, best ball, DFS, whatever you're interested in, just let me know. I am open to it. But yes, please do hit that like button on your way out. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.